Was your mind blown with the first episode with Dr. Robert Malone? Well, stand by, because in this episode, we tackle bioweapons research and development and whether or not the world is prepared for the next pandemic. Join me and Doc on the David Rutherford Show. You know, we have all of these, let's call them stakeholders around the world who are all, you know, out there pontificating about, oh, the next one's going to be the big one.
Oh,
the next one's
all that existential fear.
That's right.
You're going to die. Yep. You're going to die.
Conditioning. And so for me, you know, that ability for you to be, really powerful guide to this, you know, if that should happen. And, you know, if you're listening, you know, don't be afraid to call your local congressman or call HHS and advocate for Dr. Malone to at least, you know, be consultant on all these things. But for me, it's really about, you know, bioweapons research, which I believe is ultimately the core of what we're dealing with right now. And so, you know, my last kind of, you know, spectrum of your analysis that I would love you to, you know, share with us is, where are we right now in terms of gain of function, in terms of the NGOs that we're outsourcing it, where it's being outsourced, you know, where are we now? And what does the current battle space of bioweapons research and development look like? And what would you like to see happen in the next, you know, 6 months with that?
Okay, so there, and the CCP has made hay out of the fact that the United States didn't sign the more recent attempted biowarfare treaty. But the truth is that neither did anybody else, including the CCP. It was basically dropped. And so it's defaulted back to the original agreement, which is like cheesecloth. And notably, and you probably were coached in this in your training, the existing agreement does not prohibit the development and deployment of agents which are non-lethal. So these are referred to in DoD space as incapacitating agents. And one of those that is at the forefront of potentially deployment as an incapacitating agent, because it has various characteristics, are the equine encephalitis viruses that have been weaponized in various ways, because you basically get an encephalitis. You get what that translates to is you get a wicked bad headache.
Wicked bad.
It's infectious through your nose, so you can breathe it in, and it potentially can be weaponized. And so that's why there's so much emphasis on trying to develop vaccines against the encephalitis viruses. And those would meet criteria as an incapacitating agent rather than as a formal biowarfare lethal agent. All of this, to understand this bizarre space and an adjacency, is also the kind of the super soldier augmented world of individuals, warfighters, augmented genetically and through implantable devices, which leads straight into the transhumanism world. And if you think that Elon Musk's Neuralink is all about treating soldiers and others that have had traumatic injuries, I have a bridge in Brooklyn to sell you. We've written about this in our Substack now going back 3 or 4 years, and documented for people, provided links to various NATO publications that all basically justify R&D in this kind of biodefense, biowarfare, transhumanism, super soldier space, based on the logic that is virtually identical to the logic that was deployed with thermonuclear warfare, which is mutually assured destruction. Them guys are doing it, and if we don't do it, we're going to get left behind, and then we're going to be facing Chinese super soldiers that are going to march across the world, and we have no defense. Is kind of the short version of that story. And underneath that, it's important to recognize, and I've heard this from multiple sources, credible sources, CIA sources, DITRA sources, that the logic of the, let's call it investment in the Wuhan Institute of Virology was based on the logic that had been successfully prosecuted in trying to neutralize the risk of former Soviet Union thermonuclear warfare experts that were no longer employed in a collapsing Soviet Union economy and therefore were basically available as hired guns. And as if that wasn't bad enough, there was also the loose nukes that were available on the free market that I don't know how many movies have been built around that. Tom Cruise would probably be half as wealthy now as he is if it wasn't for that storyline. But it was all real, and DITRA did some important work in threat reduction, and that threat reduction logic of you're going to have to pay some of these scientists to keep them from doing bad stuff and working for the bad guys, and so it's justified to subsidize them. That the WIV investment was partially about that, but the thing is that the CCP is not a collapsed Soviet Union free-for-all environment. CCP is very centralized and very astute and has very clear, very long-term objectives. And so they basically said, yeah, great, we'll. The other part of the logic was that some mole somewhere revealed to the CCP and the People's Liberation Army the names of CIA personal assets throughout communist China. And they pretty much all got killed and their families tortured, and many of them got killed too. So suddenly the CIA was blind in terms of human intelligence. At a time, and I use CIA metaphorically for the entire defense intelligence and the entire intelligence complex. And so that was the other part of the justification is better to get some intelligence, even if we're having to functionally pay for it by subsidizing WIV, than to have none, than to have no intelligence about what the CCP and the PLA are doing in terms of building bioweapons and bioweapon countermeasures, because that's the key thing is you can't deploy a bioweapon unless you've got the countermeasure. You kind of got to build both at the same time. So that's what went down there. And it's part of this whole, I put out my essays really early on about the Ukraine biolabs, and I reached back to the old Mad Magazine Spy versus Spy, because it remains the perfect metaphor. And, and I had this one clip of Spy versus Spy, and they both have, they're both about to push down the trigger on some sticks of dynamite. They're going to blow up the other one. They're both just sitting there, getting ready to blow up each other. That's pretty much captures the logic of mutually assured destruction. So all of this is deemed essential because the logic that they're doing, and everybody's doing it. And so we have to do it too. And I don't know how you break the loop on that. That's a President Trump level question. This beyond beyond our portfolio, you and me. But that's what's going on. And is this sustainable so not to engage in my own fear porn, but please, audience, understand that modern biotechnology is at a level right now. I'll say it this way. During the 60s, up until Nixon's determination that we were going to stop doing this, a case can be made that modern virology, molecular biology, and microbiology exist because of the massive spending that occurred in advancing the biowarfare agenda. The heads of the American Society for Microbiology for years were the leaders in the kind of USAMRIID biowarfare world. That technology platform that has given us the RNA and gene therapy and PCR and all that comes out of this massive investment. And it is dark. As Bobby talks about in this other book, Wuhan Lab Leak, it followed the real Anthony Fauci. It has roots in both German and in particular Japanese biowarfare programs, and the Japanese biowarfare program was particularly nasty.
Wasn't that Unit 741?
Yeah, I think you have more. So they would take prisoners of war, and they actually fed them pretty well. But the price of being healthy was that they would experiment on live people. They would inoculate. You'd stick your arm through a chamber, and they would jab you with whatever the agent was. And my understanding is they would perform live autopsies. I mean, the ethics there, but a lot of those people kind of got Werner von Braun into USAMRIID. So that's the core from whence our modern bio-industrial defense complex grew. So no surprise that there's some pretty sketchy ethics in that space. So it's still ongoing. Now, a key thing to understand is that after the anthrax letters, and that, as far as I'm concerned, that is still unresolved. It reeks to high heaven.
As a personal note, I think I have about 8 anthrax shots in me, to which I never got a clear answer as to why, other than you're going to the Middle East, you're going to be exposed to anthrax. And there's no doubt in my mind it has affected my metabolic stability. It's affected neurologic aspect. Yeah.
And that's why the law was put in place. That is the basis for Pete Hegseth's announcement.
Sorry to interrupt the episode, but you know it. We got to pay tribute to our sponsors. That's what makes the show possible. I want you to come out of your comfort zone and go visit firecracker.farm. If you like spicy food like I do, this is the place. This is hot pepper infused salt that you can put on your eggs, you can put on your steak, you can put on anything that you want to shove down your gullet, and it's going to make that little bit of kick that makes you happy all day long. I'm telling you now, go to firecracker.farm, type in RUT15, that's Romeo Uniform Tango 15, get your discount, and your taste buds will love me for it tomorrow. Booyah.
That's why the law was put in place. That is the basis for Pete Hegseth's announcement that the mandated administration of unlicensed vaccines by the Pentagon chain of command, that Captain Tomlinson has the 3-ring binders on for all that whole chain of those orders. A JAG level Navy captain, based out of Big Island, who I've met with and talked to. So she's got the receipts. And as I said in another essay, I'm waiting for the courts martials. But that law was put in place because of soldiers like yourself and what you experienced with Gulf War syndrome and the anthrax vaccines. But what happened was, getting back on thread, when those spores were deployed and they had the characteristics of weaponized anthrax spores, because normally anthrax spores will clump and then you can't distribute them through aerosol, and it takes some fancy stuff to make them so they don't clump. And the analysis of those little spore packages demonstrated that whoever put those spores in those packages had access to weaponized material. And the decision was that it didn't come from Los Alamos, which it could have come from. It didn't come from Battelle, which it could have come from. It came from USAMRIC. And there was a hole in the Bruce Ivins got harassed. He was unstable. Anyhow, he committed suicide, and everybody said, oh, it was Bruce Ivins. Case solved. And we can go back to work. But the blowback from that was Tony Fauci was able to make the case organizationally within the government that the DOD had screwed the pooch. And they couldn't be relied upon to responsibly and efficiently develop medical countermeasures. And so NIAID was so much better at this than the DOD, which was a total self-serving lie. But all you have to do is look at what he's done with the money ever since. And a lot of programs that were on track are no longer on track. But that allowed him to become dual-hatted, heading up NIAID and also heading up the entire military biowarfare complex. And that's what was used to justify, because of these increased responsibilities, this major bump in pay that he got that made him the most highly compensated federal employee. So that's people don't recognize that Fauci was sitting at the tip of the pyramid of just a massive amount of money that goes back to World War II. So that structure has still not been reorganized to the best of my knowledge. That's a interagency issue that somebody under Hegseth has got to have a powwow with Jay Bhattacharya and split the baby again, as far as I'm concerned. And then we got to have some serious thinking about what the heck are we doing here? Because that feeds into the president's recent executive order, getting back to your core topic of gain of function research. So, bless his heart, Bobby has made a series of statements, and he's kind of gotten ahead of his skis on that executive order. He said that President Trump has endorsed a total ban of gain of function research. Okay, let's examine that. What the executive order really does is it creates some more obstacles for federally funded gain of function research, a little more oversight. So it's turned up the knob a little bit on the oversight of gain of function research and the approval process. So it's created some more bureaucracy. But that bureaucracy can be corrupted, now or in the future, by just making sure that you get the right appointments in those positions. And then they'll, just like the FISA courts, they'll just bless whatever, throw holy water on it, say, go forth. And it does nothing to address the privately funded gain of function research that occurs, that Stat News itself documented, and I testified to the Texas Senate about, that there was gain of function research going on in the University of Texas system, underfunding by Pfizer, having to do with novel coronavirus. This is still ongoing. And, then we had the reveal of the surreptitious CCP-funded shop in California. God only knows how many of those are. But basically, if BlackRock decides that it's appropriate that your NewCo do gain of function research, and they capitalize it. I'm just picking on BlackRock.
Right. They're the easiest.
Yeah, they're low-hanging fruit. So there's nothing that President Trump's executive order has to say about that. It's only about federally funded research. So we're a long way. I wish it was so, these forward-looking statements, let's say, that Bobby's making, but we're a long way from a ban on gain-of-function research in the United States. Over.
Well, thank you for that answer. The last little bit is I always want to leave the audience on a positive note, those happy warriors, right? We want to get them fired up after we just gave them a pretty heavy dose of reality, which is what the whole show's intent is, and to contextualize it all, right? One of my other heroes from your community and what you're doing is Peter McCullough. And, he appears to have some type of protocol that enables people who might have suffered some type of vaccine injury or some type of adverse effects.
Okay, so Dave, I'm going to cut you off there.
Okay.
Peter works for the wellness company.
Okay.
And the wellness company sells treatment kits that have a combination of licensed pharmaceuticals and nutraceuticals. The wellness company is extremely litigious. The wellness company has sent me cease and desist orders, and many other physicians. The wellness company is now suing Cali Means. So I just cannot comment on Peter, the wellness company, Kelly Victory. A lot of this. Now I'm no longer talking about the wellness company. I just want to be clear on that.
Yep.
A lot of the dissension that has occurred within the base can be traced to people that are associated with the wellness company.
Wow, that's disheartening to hear, sir. It really is.
And it's kryptonite for me. I cannot talk about Peter McCullough and what he does. Like I said, I've had me and others have received very aggressive cease and desist letters. And if I say anything about Peter McCullough, then, I get a whole bunch of blowback about how I'm just...
I understand, sir. All right. So let's put that off to the side then. What, in your mind, is there a way forward to some type of medical development or protocol in the future that will help all these people who have suffered?
Yeah, David, I suggest that the approach here is to go higher level.
Okay.
The people that are vaccine damaged are real. Mickey Willis just came out with a video last night. It was published, open source, about these people that are not able to be heard. They've been censored so heavily. Maddie DeGarry being just one example. So the special vaccine court for COVID has been set up to compensate people that are damaged by these products. And they've given out a tiny handful of settlements that average a few $1,000s. And meanwhile, they've spent over $10 million defending their positions and holding their little meetings and paying for their consultants and all that crap. But they're not actually helping anybody in any real way. If I had my way, we would have a RICO case here against the perps that have conspired and manipulated and censored and propagandized and everything else. and akin to the tobacco settlement. In my best of all possible worlds, this would be pursued in the same way the tobacco settlement was by the states. So get it away from the feds, and the proceeds of such a case would be used to make right, to the best of your ability, those that have suffered injuries due to these policies. And that's broadly written. It's not just the jab. It's the huge damage to small businesses that's been very well documented by the lockdowns and so many other things. And not to mention, God, the damage to our children from the educational system. I mean, that teachers union that is run by this buddy of Hillary Clinton that was responsible for influencing Rochelle Walensky, that one needs to be taken out. So that's if Donald Trump invited me down to Mar-a-Lago and we had a dinner and heart to heart, and he said, "What can I possibly do here? I've had an epiphany, and I want to make it better." I'd say, find a way to start to make things right to the best of your ability. The vaccine injured, and then think about how, being somebody who's coming from a libertarian framework, I'm skeptical of the ability of the government to do anything without screwing things up. And I don't see the state as our friend. But the state is responsible for this in a significant way.
I really hope you're enjoying the show with Dr. Robert Malone. We want to pause briefly for me to remind you that on May 31st at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on our Patreon account, I will be giving a live motivational event. 1 hour of the most incredible motivation you've ever heard. This is 30 years of really me trying to understand what about the human condition that enables us to succeed, or what drives failure in the most extreme environments imaginable. Now, all you got to do is go to our Patreon account at David Rutherford Show. It's a $2 a month subscription rate, and you will have full access to this event. 1 hour of speaking and 1 hour of Q&A. You don't want to miss it. Please join us on our Patreon account. Thank you.
The state is responsible for this in a significant way, and it ought to own it. And figure out not just how to create some repair for the vaccine injured, but the broader issue of this whole lost generation and their education. They represent, particularly young men, represent an enormous resource for the United States that's underutilized right now at a time when we are desperately seeking people qualified to do, let's call it dirty jobs, work with their hands. And those are six-figure incomes to be an HVAC person or an electrician, mechanical engineer, etc. We desperately need those people. And if they have been deprived of the necessary training to enter the trades or otherwise because of the school policies, then let's think hard about the federal government capitalizing training programs. And I personally would, this is really pushing the edges coming from a fan of the Mises Institute, but the work projects that were done in the context of the Depression, we need some sort of a national program to put our own people back to work. And this whole, we're just going to import a bunch of Latinos and Chinese and everybody else from an open border to replace our missing personnel cohort. I'm sorry, that is not how you maintain a nation. We need to take care of our own. So that's where I come down on this, as I really think that somebody needs to get the kahunas to prosecute a RICO against these players. And it probably has to go at the state level because the indemnification has been provided by the feds. And there's also, by the way, this is inside baseball, but the utilization of the other transactional authority to acquire these products, which is not what it's intended for, and bypassing the federal acquisition regulation, the contracting officers that enabled that, they need to go. And they need to be held accountable. Those are specific, hello, Pete, knock, knock. Not just courts marshals, but you need to hunt down those COs, and they need to pay a price for what they did.
I couldn't agree more. Maybe we could take some of the $2.2 billion that we're taking from Harvard and give it to Mike Rowe, and get some young people out there and get them rebuilding America, right? And bringing health back to America, starting local farms and
they can't
local
hire
businesses.
The people they need to build the goddamn submarines. Not available. Get with it.
That's right. Amen. Well, sir, again, I just the magnitude of respect that I have for you and the battle that you've been fighting is beyond inspirational to me. It's definitely implicated a radical shift in the way I perceive reality and the world itself, and has invigorated me to go beyond what I used to think was the necessity, and now into the space to bring the light to the truth of what's taking place. So, Dr. Malone, where can people follow you, find you, and more importantly, what advice do you have them moving forward?
Well, they can find me at Gulch Gulch, otherwise known as Madison, Virginia. But all kidding aside, thanks for the opportunity to pump my own merch. That would be Substack, Malone.news. The books, The Lies My Government Told Me, and Better Future Coming, and the book War, Enforcing the New World Order, are officially available wherever good books are sold. But increasingly, that just comes down to Amazon. The audio book that I recorded here in the studio late at night because of my motorcycle riding papers.
It's perfect weather now.
Can only be accessed through Amazon. I'm sorry. But a lot of people like that. It's actually more accurate than the War book because as I was reading it, I picked up errors, the typos in the book itself, and they're corrected in the audiobook. So if you like audiobooks, that's a good one. And then we have a website, RW Malone MD, and you can find that. I'm on Parler now. I'm an ambassador for Parler. And for what it's worth, Parler is blockchain protected. Yay. And of course, X and Truth Social and Gab. I'm sorry, Getter, not Gab. I have an account on Gab, but it just got too
much.
Too much. And too much free speech. Having to do with Israeli conflict, let's say. So those are all at RW Malone MD.
Outstanding. God bless you, sir.
Thanks for having me on, Dave.